Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. I'm really excited about this video because I'm going to be talking about my chart. This is going to be a what's it like to have the chart ruler in the 12th house. I see a lot of videos, informationals about having the chart ruler in the 12th house, but I think that hearing it from someone who has that just is a different experience. So I have my chart ruler is Neptune, and I have that in my 12th house. So Neptune is this very elusive planet. I don't really want to go into explaining astrology. I just want to explain my life, which is like explaining astrology. Something that I've noticed about having Neptune in the 12th. Now, I have Neptune and Aquarius in the 12th, so this has a lot to do with groups, associations, contacts, friends, and whatnot. And I have noticed that I experience a lot of transformation with friends, a lot of losses. I have been a part of many groups. I have known a lot of people in my life, and it's always kind of like a switching in and out of people and of groups and spaces and stuff is really weird. So, well, it's not weird anymore, but it used to be really weird. So something that I also notice is I come across a lot of people that I've already met before, and I come across them in different bodies. Usually it's in different bodies, they have the same vibrational match. What I mean by this is they look very similar to a past friend. They talk very similar, their character, personality, etc. is damn near the same person. But they're not them, obviously. And I noticed that I get that a lot. I have people around me that, especially if I go somewhere or whatever, I'm lost or just in a foreign place. It doesn't have to be a foreign country, just a foreign place, or my mind is kind of kind of mixed up and jumbled and stuff. I will come across somebody who looks like somebody that I'm familiar with. It's so weird. Well, yeah, like I said, it used to be really weird. Something that I noticed as well, when I was younger, having Neptune in the 12th house. So when I was born, obviously Neptune was in the 12th house. Right now, Neptune is actually transiting my first house. So Neptune has not taken its hands off of my neck, has not taken its shoe from my neck, okay? And in regards to friends, I've noticed that I can have some friends that are very kind of elusive. I don't really know where I stand with them, or we don't really know where we stand with each other. When I started getting into the atmosphere of drugs and substances, hallucinogen substances and whatnot, I could find them very, very quick. I always knew that I would find somebody who had something. So especially when I would be looking. So a lot of people around me, and of course I don't really know too much about their chart rulerships, but I think I've only met maybe one or two people that their chart rulers in their 12th, maybe. But something that I noticed is that they would always not know how to find drugs. They would be where do we find? I don't know where to look and all this stuff. And I would always look on dating apps. That was one of the places that I would look, was dating apps. And I used to tell people just go on dating apps and you can find a lot of drugs there and stuff like that. And that was just always very easy for me. And also I just had a lot of drugs readily available because of my friends. My friends had really strong connects, and I would never go without when it came to drugs. I could tell you that much. When it comes to Neptune in Aquarius, and that's your chart ruler or whatever, you will never go without drugs. You will never go without having some sort of contact that has some sort of connection to somebody who has something that you need. But usually the thing that you need is very Neptunian, remember, okay? Versus if it was someone who had, if your chart ruler was Venus in Aquarius, that would be like very different, right? Or if your chart ruler was Mars in Aquarius or Mercury in Aquarius, right? Because Aquarius rules over contacts and connections, like I said. But then you also want to look at the planetary sphere, because that's really going to show you also kind of like the energy surrounding it too. So I did drugs a lot with my friends, obviously. That's a very like general Neptune and Aquarius thing. I don't want to make it sound like Neptune and Aquarius is this like huge druggy hippie type of personality, because that's not true. But that is one way that it has manifested in my life, or that it has manifested in my life. So now that I don't consume as much drugs as I did before, it's really different now. So there's this heightened awareness of friendship. So I've always been like really close to my friends, really, like friendship took a lot of my mental sphere, and just in general like that. I do like anything for my friends and stuff. But I started to learn that, because remember, Neptune, there's this fog. So if you don't know where you stand with someone, sometimes you can overcompensate, and there's so many things that you also want to consider when it comes to chart rulership. Like, do you have any aspects to this chart rulership? And like, so like the degree and whatnot. So you also want to pay attention to that as well. Having my chart ruler in the 12th house means that I have really insane dreams, but not only insane dreams, I have just insane, out of this world, just experiences in life, because I feel like the 12th house is it's the malleable house. It's like the cosmic womb. And so things have to incubate and develop and process and stuff like that. And like, you have to create it before you can really live it, which is the first house. So when you have chart ruler in the 12th house, it's kind of like everything that you think, you feel, etc., really is in the mental. It's not in the mental sphere. It's in other dimensions and other realities. Because remember, the 12th house is other dimensions, other realities, and whatnot. And so when it comes to Aquarius, remember, Aquarius being groups, you can exist as part of like different groups and different spheres of reality. You can understand kind of like you can understand spiritual hierarchy in a different way, I feel like, as well. I'm not going to say that things get handed to me, but I will say that, like, because Neptune doesn't do anything. Remember, Neptune is kind of like, when you think of the lazy river at a theme park, that's Neptune, right? The lazy river. When I think of like an all-inclusive bar, all you can eat, that's Venus. So remember, Neptune is a higher octave of Venus. And Neptune is more so in the fantasy realm, imagination. And 12th housers know firsthand how imagination and fantasy really is the key, one of the many keys to kind of birth whatever it is that you want into this reality. If you have a chart ruler in the 12th house, I definitely suggest that you work more with your imagination. I'm sure that you already do that. Duh. But I would say like work as much as you can with your imagination. Find different ways and different and also remember, I have it in Aquarius. So Aquarius has to do with the mental sphere. It is the mind and as well. So and I've said this in a previous video. When I do my chart, I say that, I have air in the 12th house. So my 12th house is air and my first house is water. So the things that I think, the things that I say, the things that I write, like anything that is very airy really manifests itself into my life. So, and it has to do a lot with friends, right? So one thing that I noticed, and this is like an ongoing joke that I have with one of my friends, she's actually a Pisces moon, is that, so I've only been in one romantic relationship so far in my life. And I'll ask my spirit guides, like, you know, or not even ask, you know, I'll write down the perfect, you know, perfect romantic partner. I'll write down, you know, really thinking positive thoughts and really attracting a romantic partner towards me and stuff. And my friend and I were just, I told my friend, I was like, I bet you if I ask for a friend right now, the moment I go outside, I'm going to gain a friend. But the moment I say that I want a romantic partner, my spirit guides are like, y'all heard something? But I'm telling you, I don't know. Y'all let me know if you have Neptune in the 12th house chart rulership. Is it really easy? Well, in Aquarius, is it really easy for you guys to make friends? Because I can say one thing, it is so easy for me to make friends, for me to make connections, associations. Like, I do it like nothing. And that's one of the things, like, I like it, don't get me wrong, but it's also so annoying because some of those connections don't go anywhere. So that's another thing that I'm saying, like, when you are setting these intentions and whatnot, you want to make sure, like, you know, what kind of friends do you want to have in your life? What kind of connections are you trying to make and stuff like that? Because if you have chart rulership in the 12th house, you literally are creating your reality. I mean, we're all creating our reality like all the time. Like, that's literally, you know, but I want to be very specific with the 12th house because, like, let's say, for example, your chart rulership is like in the 6th house. Okay, actually, let's go like the 4th house, right? I'm not saying that if you're not creating your reality because your chart rulership is not in the 12th house. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is that because the 12th house is a house of, excuse me, other dimensions, it's kind of like the exiting. That's what I think of the 12th house, is like this exit, the door, the whirlpool, the portal. That's the 12th house to me. So if you think about that in relation to having your chart rulership there, right? It's you, because you're the chart ruler. Well, the chart ruler, right? The first house is us, is our avatar. So you are going into a portal, right? You are going through the door. Whereas if you have like chart rulership in the 4th house, for example, a lot of the times you create, when you're creating your reality, has a lot to do with safety. Now, obviously the sign and, like I said, aspects, degrees, and all that stuff matters, but the house is really important because all of the houses represent something. And even if you want to think about it in relation to the body too, right? So the 12th house is a representation of feet. So if you think about the feet carry us places. So you have the head, which is the 1st house, and you have the feet, which is the 12th house. Okay. Another thing, so a lot of things that I read about the 12th house is that 12th housers, like, we isolate ourselves. I definitely do isolate myself. It depends. I'm not really that much of an isolator, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I know a lot of people like the Enneagram. Is that what it's called? I'm not even sure like what it's called. It's like the personality types or whatever. So I'm ENFJ, just in case, you know, any of you guys are into that. I'm not really into that, if I'm going to be completely honest. I'm just saying that for anybody who's into that. Let me think. So yeah, I do self-isolate, but I'm not going to say that I literally am in a hole all day, because that's not true. I genuinely am like always with my friends. Like, I always make sure that I have a good team, like, throughout my life. So right now I'm in my 1st house profection year. And so this is a second cycle, right? Because we go through 1 through 12 house profection years every 12 years. Okay. So this is my second, right? Yeah, this is my second go around. Okay. So I have, like I said earlier, I've gone through a lot of friends. I've gone through a lot of associations, a lot of connections, but a lot of them were very unconscious. A lot of them were very Neptunian, whatever, like, made me feel good. It was Neptune in its like underdeveloped phase. So I don't really know how else to describe it. I would become friends with people in the weirdest way. So I don't want to like calm myself out because other placements is the reason for this. But basically what I'm trying to say is I would literally make friends out of nowhere. Like, I would literally see somebody say, I want to be their friend because they were pretty, or because I like their outfit, or because like literally whatever, because I saw that everybody liked them, so I want to be their friend. And I would literally become friends with them. I'm literally like not even kidding. If you weren't my friend, it's because I didn't want you to be my friend, not because you didn't want to be my friend. Remember, Neptune is really like this bippity boppity boop. So you got to be careful. It really is like, you got to be careful what you wish for, because wherever you have Neptune in, wherever your Neptune is, whatever sign your Neptune is, which I share a lot of, of course, my Neptune's in Aquarius. So I share Neptune Aquarius with a lot of people, of course, because it's a generational planet. And so I know a lot of people that are like, but if it's a generational planet, but that's why I say, like, you have to look at the house. This is really important. And you want to look at aspects and degree and stuff like that. Also, my Neptune is at 0 degree Aquarius. So that's another thing too. The 0 degree, they say, is a really critical degree placement. It's this like the full energy, and you're just kind of finding your way around this new territory. So it's kind of like I just stepped foot on Neptune, and like I don't have no guide, and I'm just kind of doing as best as I can. That's really how it feels. Let me think. So yeah, that was like my life in the beginning. Like I said, when it came to friends, people I associated with and whatnot. And there was kind of this, like, it was just a lot of illusion when it came to a lot of the people that I connected with, because we didn't really connect, if that makes sense, right? It was just kind of like, this person and that person knows this person, and that, kind of like an opportunistic, for lack of a better word, because it's like, what are you talking about? Like, I was literally in like middle school, like, but now that I'm like back around in my first house perfection year, and even last year I was in my 12th house perfection year in tropical astrology, something that I found really interesting, I started to take my friendships really seriously. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, who are these people that I have around me? Like, I need to make sure that everybody that I have around me is like supportive of me, and these are like real friends. It's not like some like I'm just trying to be associated with this person and da 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 and all this stuff. Like, no. Also, something else I can say, when you have chart ruler in the 12th house, of course, like depending on like what planet and what sign it's in, is remember that you are gonna get what you want if you haven't already. Like, if you have chart ruler in the 12th and you feel like you don't get anything that you want, probably got some harsh aspects. But for the most part, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a pretty optimistic person, especially when it comes, that was so weird. Hold on. Especially when it comes to friends, like, I'm a really optimistic person. I really can make friends like out of thin air. I really can make connections out of thin air. There will be someone who knows something about what it is that I have a question about, or something that I need in my life. Because remember, we're talking about the first house, something that has to do with me, okay? Something else about the 12th house, remember, the 12th house is very malleable. It's very very changeable. It kind of reminds me of like, just seeing the world is kind of this whirlwind, like I said, with the portal and stuff like that. And so you really want to like focus on like where you're going. You want to focus on where, what dimension that you want to arrive in, what timeline, like all of these things is very 12th housey. Another thing that I can say is I've always pretty much liked paranormal shows, not movies, shows. I've always been fascinated by them. There used to be this show called The Haunting that I really liked. And it was basically people telling stories about like paranormal activity in their house. I really don't know why I used to like that show, but that used to be one of my favorite shows. So you might be like, very early on, you might have noticed that you were very interested in the metaphysical, stuff like that. For me, Aquarius is more associated with like science. I didn't really have any like science nerds as friends. I wasn't a science nerd. Maybe deep down, I've always loved reading. I've always loved science in a way. Like my mom told me like the other year, she was like, I knew that you always loved science. And I was like, why didn't you tell me? I had no clue that I was so obsessed with physics and stuff like that. And what is it called? Relativity theory or something like that. Theory of relativity, stuff like that. So, yeah, you might, if it's an Aquarius, you might really like science. You might really understand science. Another thing with Aquarius in the, chart ruler in the 12th house, you might have to do things alone. So a lot of people say like we like isolation, and I get what people mean by that, but what it really means is we need to do things alone. So like, for example, I used to notice when I was in college, I could not study in the same room as my friends because I was going to distract somebody or somebody was going to distract me. And 9 times out of 10, I was going to be doing the distracting because I'm like, hey, we're all in the same room. Like if I wanted to be bored, I'd do this on my own. You know what I mean? So if you really want to get something done, if you have chart ruler in the 12th house, you need to do it on your own. And I'm not saying that you don't have to have somebody to help you or that you have to do it secretly. Like we're not talking about 8th house stuff. I'm saying like you should do it on your own and then have one of your really close friends. Cause I know you, see, I keep going back and forth between chart ruler in the 12th and then talking about me having chart ruler in the 12th, but whatever. So if you have, you want to do it on your own and then you want to have somebody inspect it for you. That's what you want to do. Don't be afraid of criticism. You want to have somebody who's going to be like, so let's say, for example, you're studying for something. Study on your own first and then study with someone. If you're talking about cooking, right? You want to like start a business when it comes to cooking. Do it on your own. Make the recipe, all that stuff on your own, and then do it with someone and then like have them taste it. Another thing too that just came to me is like, if you have chart ruler in the 12th and you have to do stuff with other people, you might mess up just because you're around other people. Like you have to do it on your own. It really is on some like divine help. I think somebody had mentioned this in another video about like Ratatouille being like a 12th house movie. Why? Because only he knew that the rat was helping him, right? Nobody else knew that the rat was helping him. And when they were alone, the rat could make all the food, right? He didn't have to pretend like it was him. So like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it really is on some shit like that. Like because the 12th house is also the house of like channeling, okay? Like trance states, hallucinogen states, just different states of consciousness. Because I mean, that's kind of what timelines and dimensions and portals and just, different states of consciousness. So anyway, you also want to keep that in mind. So like, for example, I do like channeled writing sometimes, and I need to be on my own to do that, right? I can't really be around people when I do channeled writing. So if somebody expects me to write for them in front of them and I'm trying to do a channeled writing, I mean, it's never happened to me before, but it probably wouldn't come out very well. So that's what I'm trying to say. You want to be able to have the space in the room because the 12th house is the void. It's the cosmic womb. You want to have the space in the room to be able to do whatever it is that you want to do. Whatever planet is there, whatever sign is there, you should not be confined. And it's very interesting, right? Because the 12th house rules over prisons and asylums and retreats, but especially, right, prisons and asylums, okay? And so when we talk about prisons, right, prison is because like, you're locked away, there's no freedom, you're like entrapped, okay? And so I saw a quote literally earlier today was like, once you realize that the only prison is the one that you created in your own mind, right? So that's really like what it's like having the the chart ruler in the 12th house. It's realizing that you are both the prisoner and the prison guard, or more so the prison director, whoever is the owner of the prison, child. I don't know what the fuck their name is, okay? Whoever the owner of the prison is, and the prisoner, all in the same time. So I think that's all I have today for chart ruler in the 12th house. I know I was kind of going on tangents about like Aquarius and Neptune, but I was trying to, incorporate my chart as well, but also kind of give you guys a general, if you don't have chart ruler in the 12th house, I was also trying to give like a general overview if you don't know what it's like as well. Actually, one final thing that I want to say, especially with having Aquarius, right, being that it's such a malleable, place, like I said, when it comes to associations and groups, you really want to, or something that I've done is, like I said earlier, really think about who I want to associate myself with, what kind of people I want to associate myself with. When you have like prominent Neptune placements, you probably will be associated with people that a lot of people don't have a lot of reach to. A lot of people, maybe they're famous, or maybe they're going to be famous. Maybe you're famous, or you're going to be famous. Like it's this very fantasy type of, that's what, when it comes to celebrities, is kind of very Neptunian, because it's like, it's this glamour, right? This illusion. So you also want to keep that in mind too when you have prominent Neptune placements, is that you can glamour yourself. Don't do that. Don't glamour yourself. If you want to create the fantastical life, the magical life that you want to live, first you have to realize that you already live it, right? And then you want to kind of oh fuck, this is actually what I was going to say. I'm going to come back to that, but this is what I wanted to say. Having Neptune in Aquarius, you can literally glamour yourself to be a part of a friend group, or a part of an association or group that you're not actually really, I mean, you are, because I mean, the fact that you tapped into that's why acting is more associated with Neptune as well. So you can act like, for example, let's say you want to be friends with a girl, or with anybody, but I'll say a girl. Let's say you want to be friends with a girl and she's like very preppy, and you're very grunge, and you're like a part of a grunge group that you probably just got into after being a part of the Bohemian Fairy group. And you see this girl and you're like, well, I have to, there has to be a way for her to notice me. So let me start to dress like that. Let me start to pretend to be like her, to be preppy. And then you start being with the preps and you realize like, damn, this ain't even my group. So one thing that I can say for chart ruler in the 12th, let me say one thing, really know yourself. Because if you start, I have to make this video over again, but you really have to know yourself, because if you start doing things you start looking outside of you for how you want to change your life, that is where you're going to go wrong. Because that's what I used to do. I used to look outside of myself to see how I wanted to be. But you need to look within so that it can come out. Because if you're looking outside and you're looking at everybody and you're looking at the preps and you're looking at the grunge, and you don't actually resonate with that, you just resonate with the people in one person or two people within that group, you don't want to completely change your personality to act like that, because you're going to realize sooner than later that that's not you. And you're going to realize how much time you wasted. Half of the friendships that you made were fake. They don't even really know the real you. You don't even really know the real them, because you were faking it the whole time. And you don't realize that you were putting on a show for a good part of, a friendship that you had, especially with Neptune and Aquarius. You really want to be careful with Neptune and Aquarius in the 12th house, because the impressions that you get from other people really imprint. They really make an imprint. Okay, we're talking about the cosmic womb. They really make an imprint, and then you end up living that, and then you end up realizing later, like, wait a minute, this doesn't even resonate with me. So I would say during your 12th house I would say during your 12th house profection year, your first house profection year, you're gonna learn a lot about who you are. if you've been like, especially with Neptune in Neptune Aquarius chart ruler, you care a lot about your friends. I love my friends. Like, I swear, if it wasn't for my friends, I really don't know. If it wasn't for friends, period, I'm like, why? Life wouldn't even be worth living if it wasn't for friends. I love being in group settings. I love being around a lot of people. I love being around a lot of my friends. Like, I connect a lot of my friends with each other. Like, I love giving people connects to things. It makes me feel useful. And it tells me that, I'm doing well, I'm well off. Like, I can connect this person to another person. I'm paying attention to the skills and the talents that not only people tell me that they have, but also that I know that they have by spending time with them, right? By really getting to know people, you understand skills and talents that they may not even realize that they have, that you can go ahead and recommend to somebody else. Okay, so yeah, you want to pay attention to the 12. If you have chart rulership in the 12th house, your 12th house and your first house profection year, either when you're 11 and 12 is going to happen, because hey, everybody's consciousness is at a different stage and stuff like that. So it's either going to happen then, or when you're 23, 24, or the other ones after that. But regardless, it really doesn't matter. All I'm trying to say is that those are going to be two really, really important time periods. And the same thing goes if you have chart rulership in any other house. Like, if you have chart rulership in the first house, your first and your fourth house are going to be really important, right? You want to pay attention to that because a lot of shit is going to happen. Okay, especially in the house where the planet is. That's where, but when you come back to your first house perfection, you're really going to see the manifestation of a lot of things. That's really when you see things to fruition. You really start to see the personal people, places, and situations around you, the things that you engage with, that has kind of like been brewing since you were in that other house. So for me, it was the 12th house. I'm literally seeing the fruits of my 12th house perfection year. All right, so that's all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in another video. Bye.